G'day everyone and welcome to an Oz Cyclone Chasers Cyclone video update tonight, the 22nd of December 2014. My name's Chris Nitzo. This update is sponsored by our major sponsor this year, Campbell Scientific Australia, when measurements matter. Taking a look firstly at the eastern section, we can see here a very strong trough system across the southern NT and also pushing into northwestern New South Wales, eastern South Australia. That trough system is creating a lot of rain activity with it. You can see here with all the cloud on the satellite image, and creating some very heavy thunderstorms to its north across the Northern Territory and across the North Kimberley as well. Over Queensland, you can see pretty well sky clear anywhere outside of the far western parts of the state or the far southwestern parts of the state. Pretty well the entire region is under the influence of a ridge now, and that is bringing dry, stable weather. Further to the east, we can see a lot of convective activity in the South Pacific. That convective activity will actually increase over the next week or two, and inside that convective activity we could see multiple low pressure systems form, particularly out towards the dateline where we have the South Pacific convergence zone as well as a developing monsoon trough. So this entire area is likely to spawn at least one, possibly two tropical lows over the next couple of weeks. Can I just state, none of which are expected to come towards Australia at this point in time. More importantly, over to the western parts of our region, we can see a lot of convective activity developing along the monsoon trough here, just to the southwest of Indonesia. So we're going to see a low pressure system, if we haven't seen one already, form in this area. It's going to push in a south to southwest direction, and it's going to intensify as it goes. So this one does have the potential to become a tropical cyclone. Once again, the big issue here, the big thing to note, is it's not expected to move towards Western Australia, but it could be named inside the Australian area of responsibility, and if it is named, it'll be named Tropical Cyclone Kate. Now, in the longer term, we're expecting this area around the North Kimberley to spawn a very, can I state very again, weak low right along the coast there. And that weak low will push to the west slowly. Now, at this stage, the computer model guidance out to early or the later parts of December and into even New Year's Day do not suggest this system intensifying too rapidly at all. Okay, on to the Bureau of Meteorology's tropical cyclone outlook for the western region. You can see they're talking about the monsoon trough here, 8 south, 101 east. This is where the low is, 600 kilometres northeast of Cocos Islands. Now, this is important because the system will over the next few days track towards the southwest and possibly into the western region. So it'll pass close to Cocos Islands. Conditions become more favourable for development into a tropical cyclone on Wednesday and into Thursday. The system's going to be closely monitored, and you could see some advices being issued on the system as we head later towards the weekend and it gets very close to Cocos Island. So the likelihood of this system becoming a TC, very low tomorrow. Very low, yes, tomorrow. Moderate on Wednesday and moderate on Thursday. So moderate means up to 50% chance of it becoming a TC. So here is the future track of that particular system. We can see here it's pushing in a southwesterly direction. Now this is a track that's fairly well forecast by almost every model. There are slight variances in the track, but passing very close to Cocos Island, no matter which model you look at, and the system does intensify over the next 5 to 6 days. Obviously the other system to watch here is the one off the North Kimberley, but you can see that the models are actually struggling to pinpoint the actual centre of circulation there, just to show you how weak it's going to remain over the next 5 or 6 days. Now as we track further east across into the Pacific, you can see what I mentioned here, a tropical low or tropical cyclone developing in the southwest Pacific here around about the east of the dateline, and another tropical low developing around the dateline, and possibly even a third system developing somewhere between 160 and 180, but probably not in the next 5 or 6 days, more likely after the model here. Sorry, more likely after the date shown by the model here. Fairly similar scenario shown by our most reliable computer model, the European, also probably one of the more conservative models, but you can see here the tropical low lying around 170 to 160 west, another one lying around the dateline, and then as we head west towards Australia, you can see a tropical low, just a very weak one developing or at least forming near the North Kimberley coastline, and then this other system here that we're really watching for, the Cocos Islands, intensifying into a borderline TC as it tracks in a southerly and then westerly direction. So in terms of global cyclone activity, well, we're pretty much hogging it here in the southern hemisphere. There are some clusters of storms up here in the North Indian Ocean. Now, we are expecting a tropical depression to form up here near Sri Lanka. Obviously, that's in the northern hemisphere, so it won't affect us. There's also a new cluster of storms developing here in the northwest Pacific. Now, that cluster will push towards the west-northwest, and that too might develop a weak low out of that as well. So, folks, but most of the activity and the biggest lot of activity is this one here to the southwest of Indonesia. This is the one we need to watch for our residents in the Cocos Islands. And you don't need any prizes to know exactly where the MJO is based on the satellite image of the Indian Ocean. There's certainly no surprises here. The MJO lies right in this zone here, and it's really intensified in the last 3 or 4 days, and you can see that very, very clearly, the amount of convection in that region. I guess the models disagree on whether that MJO is going to push east towards Australia. Now, the European model is quite intent on pushing that MJO over Australia, which will mean that we will see an increase in shower, thunderstorm, and general rain activity across the tropics as we head from Christmas, and particularly as we head into very, very early in the new year. And so what we will see, if the MJO follows this progression towards the east, initially we'll see a lot of activity around the northern Kimberley and the Northern Territory, and that's in the next sort of 7 to 10 days, and then that activity should push east as we head towards days 7 through to 15 to 20, and that'll head eastwards towards Queensland, the Coral Sea, and the Southwest Pacific. And so cyclone chances obviously increase as well as this MJO pushes eastwards, this maritime continent. So as it pushes eastwards into phase 4, we start to see increased chances across northern and western Australia of cyclones. As it pushes into phase 5, we start to see an increase in cyclone potential across Australia, and that includes the east. And then as we head into phase 6, we particularly start watching the Coral Sea and the Southwest Pacific for cyclone potential. Alright, on to the rainfall predictions across the continent. We can see that tomorrow we're going to see a lot of shower and storm activity across central and northern parts of the Northern Territory as a trough starts to push northwards, and we see a very, very strong convergence between the developing ridge or the developing dry air underneath it and the actual moist air coming in off the Timor Sea, the Arafura Sea coming into this thing. So a lot of shower and storm activity, and that extends into the Kimberley and even into the Pilbara region of WA tomorrow. Over the western parts of Queensland, we'll see some very isolated activity, as we will see some very isolated activity across the Western Cape as well. So maybe some very isolated showers across the east coast, not shown here. On Wednesday, we'll continue to see very heavy thunderstorm activity across central parts of the territory, pushing into the northern parts of the territory, and once again, very active conditions across the Kimberley and even a little bit more active around the Pilbara and even into the inland Gascoyne tomorrow. Across Queensland, once again, fairly dry. We will see some isolated thunderstorms, not much rain inside those across southwestern Queensland. Also northwestern Queensland, we'll see some very isolated activity. And once again, the tropical coast of Queensland, possibly a little bit more activity, but once again, still isolated in nature. On Thursday, we'll see once again just the Northern Territory. It's almost like a carbon copy. You might as well put me on record and then replay it, because it's just we've just got a potential situation here where a trough just lingers in through the inland parts of the territory, and we just keep getting that convergence zone just to the north, just pumping through this moisture and getting uplifted by the trough system. So once again, huge amount of storms across the Northern Territory, and also continuing storms across the Kimberley and even into, once again, the Pilbara and Gascoyne. Possibly some of those making it to the coast of the Pilbara, which is something that hasn't happened so far this wet season. On Friday, those storms just move a touch further to the north across the territory. The North Kimberley continues to fire. Western Peninsula, increasing thunderstorm activity there. And across Queensland, this trough system pushes eastwards, and so we'll see showers and storms possibly getting to the severe levels across southern Queensland here on Friday. And a continuation of some very weak and isolated thunderstorm activity across the northwestern parts of the state. Continuing fairly fine across the coast as we continue to remain under the influence of a ridge. From Boxing Day to the 29th of December, there's no prizes at guessing exactly where the MJO is there? Because you can see just a big amount of rainfall occurring here. Just general falls of 25 millimeters plus. Certainly some heavier and stronger falls here with the heavier thunderstorm activity, and also across the Western Peninsula, we're continuing to see, or we're probably going to see an increase rather than continuing to see, of thunderstorms after about Boxing Day. Across southern Queensland, there are some very positive signs here of the next trough system being quite a big rain producer, but we won't know that for sure until probably our next update, which will be on the Thursday night, the 25th of December. Thanks for watching this, folks, and we'll talk again on the 25th of December. From all of us at Oz Cyclone Chasers, we hope you have a very Merry Christmas, and we'll talk again on Christmas night.